Let me start by challenging something most people believe. Many of us have been told that waking up early as we age is simply a habit, an old person thing, a sign of good discipline, or perhaps anxiety, or drinking too much water before bed. That is not what the science shows. What actually happens, and what researchers now understand clearly, is that your body's internal clock physically advances with age. This is called Advanced Sleep Phase Syndrome, or ASPS, and it is not a lifestyle choice. It is a biological mandate. Think of your circadian rhythm, your body's 24-hour internal clock, as the conductor of an orchestra. It tells every organ, every cell, every hormone in your body when to perform and when to rest. When you were younger, that conductor had a firm, reliable sense of time. Sleep came around 10 or 11 p.m. Wakefulness arrived around 6 or 7 a.m. But as we age, that conductor begins to drift. It starts calling wake up earlier and earlier. Not because you went to bed too soon, but because the very cells that keep biological time have begun to lose their precision. The result is a mismatch between the schedule your body now operates on and the social world around you that runs on a different clock entirely. You're wide awake at 4 a.m., but the world won't start for another 3 hours. And that gap, that silent, isolating gap, is what so many of my patients describe as the hardest part. Now let's go inside the brain. Because to understand why this happens, we need to talk about a very small, very important structure called the pineal gland. The pineal gland is roughly the size of a grain of rice. It sits deep in the center of your brain, and its primary job is to produce melatonin, the hormone that signals to your body that it's time to sleep. In a healthy young adult, melatonin rises sharply in the evening, peaks in the early hours of the morning, and falls away as dawn approaches. It's a clean, powerful signal. Your brain receives it clearly, your body responds. But here is what happens with age. The pineal gland gradually undergoes a process called calcification. Calcium deposits build up within the gland's tissue. This is so common in older adults that it shows up on routine brain scans. And as calcification increases, the gland becomes less efficient. Its output drops. Instead of a strong, sharp melatonin spike, one that says clearly, "It is night, stay asleep," the aging brain produces a weaker, flatter signal. The message gets through, but it's quieter, more easily interrupted. Even a small disturbance, a noise, a shift in temperature, the need to urinate, can now override it completely. This is what I call fragmented alertness. Instead of cycling through the deep, restorative stages of sleep and emerging refreshed, the aging brain hovers at a lighter level of rest, easily pulled back to consciousness, struggling to return to depth. And the consequences go beyond tiredness. Research shows that disrupted sleep in older adults is associated with reduced memory consolidation, impaired immune function, increased cardiovascular risk, and a higher likelihood of depression and cognitive decline. This is not trivial. This is a health issue that deserves serious attention. Now I want to take you even deeper, because the pineal gland is only one part of the story. The real master pacemaker of the human brain is a tiny cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. The SCN sits in the hypothalamus, just above the optic chiasm, where the optic nerves cross. It receives light signals directly from the eyes and uses that information to synchronize every circadian process in your body, from cortisol release to body temperature to hunger to sleep. It is, in every sense, your biological timekeeper. And with age, the SCN begins to deteriorate. Studies using post-mortem brain tissue have shown that the number of neurons in the SCN decreases significantly in older adults. The cells that remain become less responsive to light signals. The rhythmic electrical patterns they once produced, sharp, reliable, consistent, begin to weaken and blur. Alongside this, a second region called the ventrolateral preoptic nucleus, or VLPO, also suffers age-related cell loss. The VLPO is essentially your brain's sleep switch. When it activates, it releases inhibitory signals that quiet the arousal centers of the brain and allow sleep to deepen. When its neurons die, that switch becomes unreliable. The result? Your brain loses its ability to accurately distinguish between night and morning. The signals that once said, "It is 4 a.m., stay asleep," become garbled. And instead of remaining in rest, the arousal system activates. Your brain, quite literally, mistakes 4 a.m. for the start of a functional day. Now here's where the environment comes in. Because the biology we've discussed doesn't happen in a vacuum, it interacts with the world around you in ways that can make things significantly worse. Let's talk about your eyes. As we age, the lens of the eye yellows and thickens, and the retina becomes thinner. The pupil also decreases in size and becomes less reactive. The combined effect of these changes is that less light reaches the specialized photoreceptive cells at the back of the eye, cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IPRGCs. These cells are critically important. They are the primary pathway through which light information reaches the SCN. When they receive strong light signals, particularly in the morning, they tell the SCN to anchor your circadian rhythm. When those signals are weakened by aging eyes, the SCN receives less input. It becomes less precisely set, and your biological clock drifts further out of alignment. Now add to this the problem of modern blue light. Screens, televisions, smartphones, tablets, emit light in the blue wavelength range that is particularly stimulating to the IPRGCs. In a young person with robust melatonin production, some evening screen time is manageable. But in an aging brain that already produces a weaker melatonin signal, blue light exposure in the evening can suppress what little melatonin is being produced entirely, pushing the circadian clock even earlier and making the fragmentation of sleep even worse. And there is a third factor that is often overlooked: the lack of evening sunlight. Many older adults spend most of their time indoors. This means the circadian system receives very little of the bright morning light that would normally anchor the clock, and very little of the gradual dimming of evening light that would normally signal the approach of night. Without those environmental anchors, the internal clock loses its reference points. It drifts, and it tends to drift forward toward earlier wakefulness. So what can we do about all of this? I want to be honest with you. We cannot reverse the aging of the pineal gland. We cannot restore lost SCN neurons. We cannot turn back the clock on the changes that come with age. But we can work with the biology rather than against it. And there are evidence-based strategies that make a real, measurable difference. Strategy 1: morning light exposure. This is, without question, the single most powerful tool available to you. Getting outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, even on an overcast day, provides a light signal strong enough to anchor your SCN and delay the forward drift of your circadian clock. Even 15 to 20 minutes of natural morning light has been shown in research to improve sleep timing, sleep quality, and daytime mood in older adults. If outdoor access is limited, a medically validated light therapy lamp, 10,000 lux, used for 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, is an excellent alternative. Strategy 2: evening light management. In the 2 hours before bed, reduce your exposure to bright and blue spectrum light. This means dimming overhead lights, switching screens to night mode or warm tone settings, and avoiding stimulating content close to bedtime. You are not trying to fight your biology. You are trying to give your remaining melatonin signal the best possible chance of being heard. Strategy 3: temperature regulation. Core body temperature drops naturally as we prepare for sleep, and this drop signals the brain to deepen rest. Research shows that sleeping in a cooler environment, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, supports this process. A warm bath or shower 1 to 2 hours before bed can paradoxically help. The subsequent cooling of the body mimics and reinforces the natural pre-sleep temperature drop. Strategy 4: consistent timing, including weekends. One of the most disruptive things you can do to an aging circadian system is vary your sleep schedule. Sleeping in on weekends or staying up significantly later than usual destabilizes the SCN's already fragile rhythm. Choose a bedtime and a wake time. Stick to them, 7 days a week. This consistency gives your biological clock a fixed point to anchor to. Strategy 5. Nutrition and movement. The circadian system is reinforced by what researchers call Zeitgebers, time givers. Light is the most powerful, but meals and physical activity also play a role. Eating your largest meal earlier in the day, avoiding heavy food within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime, and taking a daily walk, preferably in natural light, all help reinforce the circadian signals that remain available to you. Magnesium-rich foods, such as leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and legumes, support the nervous system and have shown modest benefits for sleep quality in older adults. Tryptophan-containing foods, such as turkey, oats, and dairy, provide precursors to serotonin and melatonin. Strategy 6. Speak to your doctor. If your sleep disruption is severe, persistent, or significantly affecting your quality of life, please speak to your physician. Low-dose melatonin supplementation, typically 0.5 to 1 milligram, taken 1 to 2 hours before bed, can help in some cases, particularly when timed correctly. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as CBTI, is also recognized as one of the most effective interventions for sleep difficulties in older adults, and does not carry the risks associated with sedative medications. I want to close with something I tell many of my patients when they come to me frustrated and exhausted by their sleep. Understanding why something is happening doesn't always fix it immediately, but it changes your relationship to it. It removes the fear. It replaces confusion with clarity. And clarity is where healing begins. Waking at 4 a.m. is not a sign that something is broken beyond repair. It is a sign that your biology is aging, as all biology does. The question is not, how do I make this stop? But rather, how do I work with this wisely? Morning light, consistent timing, evening calm, movement, good nutrition. Small, intentional changes to your environment that speak the language your circadian system still understands. That is the path forward, and I am glad you're on it. If this video was useful to you, please share it with someone you care about. Subscribe to this channel for weekly, evidence-based health guidance designed for adults who want to stay sharp, strong, and informed. I'm Dr. Alex Varsakis. Take good care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.